Hey, all, welcome to my channel. So, yesterday there was a lot going on. Uh, Start of football season. Well, not officially, but unofficially because of the rest of the games. Also, baseball in general, specifically in the Mets, more specifically, and at the same time as well as Formula One at Monza. Let me start off by saying, and there were games also over the weekend, which I didn't talk about over the weekend. Basically, like more specifically with the New York Mets, Tong, basically not Tonga, Tong, basically. Um, I don't know what to say exactly because it was against the Reds. He did go at least 6 to 7 innings. The problem was, or 7 innings, but the problem was is he gave up those home runs. I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing. It's good maybe to see how he does with adversity. The fact that he's got this loss, it'll be interesting to see because it seems like this is a kid that basically going through the minors, he was without like having this much adversity. He just had never had to experience it, and it'll be interesting to see how what his reaction will be in the next game when he comes up. Specifically when it's crunch time for the Mets at this point as well. Too. Let's be honest, it is crunch time. I'm not going to say whether the Mets will make it or not into the playoffs. I want to wait till the end of this week to figure it out because, quite honestly, it's going to be a little concerning because if they can't win the next set of games, it's going to be problematic, and they might barely limp into the playoffs, wild card that is, depending on how the Giants, the San Francisco Giants that is, and the Cincinnati Reds play at this point, as well as the Cardinals. The Cardinals are doing pretty decent as well too. Let's not forget that. Um, and maybe the Diamondbacks. Who knows? Like I said, it's a winning streak is all that's needed before, and a losing streak before the Mets are like out of playoff contention. Um, Sprout basically had his debut yesterday. Um, I want to say it looks promising, but I don't know. But the thing is, this is a kid also that starting in the beginning of the years with the minors, he wasn't doing so well, but then he gradually became better. He kind of reminds me a little bit of what basically, I don't want to say what DeGrom was, but what Syndergaard had to go through at that point early on in his career, as well as Wheeler. They were sort of like gaining used to things, and then eventually they started becoming good, and specifically Wheeler himself started becoming really good. So I just give it a couple more games. Let's see how Sprout does in a couple more games. And let's be honest, I mean, we'll have to see him next year. It'd be great if Sprout can actually do really well to the point of like he'll be like the number three or maybe number two starter in the playoffs. Same thing with Tong. Let's be honest, McLean, he's going to be a number one starter next year. Hopefully, he's in contention for not only the Cy Young but also Rookie of the Year. I'm hoping that Sprout and as well as Tong are also in contention for that as well too. But time will tell. Um, Now, the question comes down to is can these guys hold up in the playoffs? That we'll have to see. I'm kind of worried the fact that the McLean hasn't really had any adversity. If he fails in the in the playoffs, if the Mets do make the playoffs, I've got a lot of concern of like what's his rebound? Will he crumble or will he come back stronger? And that's what it seems like with Tong. I think he'll probably come back stronger because after the first home run, you saw his reaction. He just like shrugged it off. I'm like, all right. And then after the second home run, it's like, all right, fine, it happens. And it seems like he'll probably it's not gonna phase him. He'll just keep going at that point. Sprout, it's a little different, but I think because he's been building up through adversity throughout his entire career, it'll be interesting to see how this works out in the next game for him. Now on to well, that's pretty much what with the baseball aspect of things. Well, actually, not entirely true. So the Phillies are pretty much red hot. The Reds, of course, are hot, of course, now, as well as the Giants, which is a surprise. And the concern is like Gilbert. Tidwell is still in the minors, but Gilbert is like seems like the catalyst for the San Francisco Giants in advancing to the playoffs. Devers was seems like a bad move by the Giants to trade for, but you know what? They're still moving forward at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if Devers is traded off to some other because he seems problematic more than anything else. And then with the aspect of the Cubs, PCA's out, so well he's injured. I don't know if he's out for the rest of the season. well, time will tell. We'll see with that. But I have a feeling he's going to be out for the rest of the season. But if that's the case, it'll be interesting to see how the Cubs stack up. They might drop down, and the Padres might overtake them at that point. I'll be honest with the Mets. I don't expect them to get far. To be honest, even if they make the playoffs, I don't think they're going to get far. They're not going to get to the championship NLCS like they did last year against the Dodgers. This year, it'd be by pure luck. Pure luck. Like I said, this is a team where they're not having fun. Soto, he's living up to his expectations of being, what he's worth, basically. Same thing with Lindor. I thought these two, with Alonso, it should help out in the long term, but problem is if they're hitting solo home runs, it's not really helping out as much, unless of course the score is really low. But it's got to be a case where like the team has to come into cohesive unit to move forward. Now, on to Formula One. It was impressive what Verstappen did, but that was more of a team thing or more of a strategy thing. Where what happened with McLaren, Lando. I mean, put it this way: Piastri did the right thing, and reality is I think Piastri is a little bit more mature than Lando. Because remember, there was a time where Lando refused to give up his, refused to give up the position to Piastri. He was like going on, and then eventually he did. And reality is like that was kind of childish from his perspective. I mean, I understand it's selfish from that aspect, but it's also a little childish. The team owner, the team itself is basically asking you to sacrifice for it, and then they'll look it up, make it up to you down the line. But reality is they weren't. I haven't seen the F1 movie. I'm waiting for that to come out back on Apple TV itself so I can watch it rather than going to the theaters. Anyways, Piastri shows his maturity level. And I think this is a kid, as I said before, and this is why it made sense for Renault, when Renault had him at the time, when Atta basically had him, and that's why he was pissed off that he went off, because he recognized him and he knew the talent that he had. And if he didn't go, I think Autumn he would not be gone from Renault, or now being renamed to whatever it is, Sauber, now to being renamed to whatever it is at this point. But in any situation, Piastri, and it seems why, and you could see why McLaren signed him. Do not be surprised for Piastri to win this year's championship. I don't know about next year. It's going to come down to who becomes the number one at that point. It's going to be kind of hard because both of them are really young. It's almost the same thing with Lewis and Nico Rosberg, basically, where they're at the same age when Hamilton joined Mercedes. It became between those two. There was no true number one. But it eventually became to the point where Hamilton was a new number one basically at that point. But any case, I would say this: Verstappen. I would not be surprised, given a little bit more time, come next year or the year after, he might do really good. I think he'll be able to win a couple more, string up a couple more wins this season, and then next season, I think Red Bull. Well, actually, with Christian Horner gone, I don't know what's going to happen, because every time Red Bull had an issue, or was in their downswing, Horner would right the ship very quickly. In this situation, Horner gone, I don't see Verstappen winning championships. He might win a couple more, here and there, but I don't think they're going to win some championships. Depending on the technical team and how they do with the car and such, I hate to say this, but I think Verstappen should leave Red Bull and probably join whatever team. I mean, Mercedes kind of makes sense, but you got Antonelli and Russell, so it's gonna stay on that. But Leclerc doing really well with with Ferrari. Hamilton, I give him another more year. If he doesn't progress this year and the beginning of next year, I think he's gonna retire end of next year, and he's gonna have to go the same record. I know he wants that record to beat Schumacher, but unfortunately he's not at the rate that things are going right now. So apologize for the messages you're hearing. Anyways, with that would be Formula One. You're welcome to let me know what your thoughts on that. Do you think? I will say this: Hamilton is definitely I don't want to say he's the GOAT, but he is can be the GOAT for now with Formula One. I still think Schumacher's the GOAT. If not for those injuries, I think he. Well, actually, that's not true. Not for the injuries. If for the fact that his he might have retired a little early. Quite honestly, I think more than anything. Look for Alonso basically to retire after this season because, like you can see, he's not going to go beyond this at this point. Ricardo, sad to see him, retire, but his skills have declined. But the thing is, put it this way, his popularity has grown considerably. I mean, based on his personality as well as Drive to Survive. I think after Drive to Survive, every driver now seeing how the popularity of um, the popularity of him basically just jumping up basically at that point that everyone wants to become him basically. The honey badger is the honey badger basically, quite honestly, more than anything else. But that's pretty much there from that perspective. Checo and of course, I forgot the other dude's name. Um, that when they're playing, driving for Cadillac next year, uh, I don't see Cadillac doing really well. Look for Christian Horner to come back not next year but the year after. Look for either Haas or Cadillac or even the new renamed Audi to basically bring Horner in because they're gonna try and basically revamp themselves. And Horner can do that at that point. Now on to football. What's to say basically? The Giants are the New York Giants are the New York Giants. It's sad to see what happened, but I kind of expected it. Russell Wilson, I knew he wasn't going to do much. I don't think Jackson Dart should be pushed into the start, as a starting QB. I think he still needs to sit down, learn. He still needs to learn, quite honestly. I think Winston should be promoted to the number one starter. Let's wait another two more games to see what happens. You could tell Shine has not done well with the offensive line. The line is still weak. Based on yesterday, the fact that the running game was like only 30 yards after 15 touches, you only get 30 yards. I mean, it's like 2 yards per 2 yards per touch, basically. That was horrible. Wilson, you could see Neighbors was also pissed off. I think more so than like I don't think he's trusting Wilson at this point. And Wilson, let's be honest, Wilson's skill level has declined considerably. I think Winston should be the starter, more so because the fact is I know I said earlier give him two more starts, but I think Winston should be the starter actually, to be honest with you, because more so the point is like Wilson himself, Russell Wilson is, I think he's pretty much done. He should just retire. I don't think he's got that. This is a quarterback that was more about mobility than staying in the pocket. Winston has the ability to stay in the pocket as well as be very, very very mobile. And I think that's perfect for him from that perspective to move forward at that point. And I'm not for the Giants to move forward and for Dart to learn. I think next year, I hate to say this, but like the Giants are going to have to, ramp up with their offensive line. The defense did really well. Let's be honest. The defense did really, really well. I was surprised how well they did. Granted, that final drive, basically, I think the Giants just basically gave up because they couldn't score a run and score a touchdown at all at that point. So I think that's why they just like, you know what, we're not going to win this game, so forget it. The other factor is I'm kind of curious to see how the Giants stack up. Now, everyone will say it's like, don't disregard the Giants for this year because of their defense. Defense wins games, but the problem is like defense can help you win games, but the offense is the one that wins championships. Without you have Malik Neighbors, they don't have a running game. They don't have a really good running game, but they have a semi-decent running game. But if this is what the running game is going to be like for the next couple of games, forget it then. I mean, like, they just need to double team Neighbors. Robinson, he's dropping the ball. He's going to be dropping the ball left and right, so it doesn't matter. And Wilson, they just got to pressure Wilson to the point of like he'll just get sacked left and right unless Winston can come into play. But the problem is that offensive line has to be made better. They've got to do something. I don't know what they got to do, but they got to do better, basically. Let's be honest. That was kind of sucky for them. Now, looking from the opposite spectrum, the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, did really well. I think the Bears fans are really pissed off that, Jaden Daniels was not number one. And Jaden Daniels is proving that this is the reason why he should have been drafted number one. Not Caleb, but Jaden Daniels. He should have been drafted number one. Same perspective as well, too. Miami, I don't know what happened to Miami, but the fact that Daniel Jones pretty much looked like Joe Montana, or not Joe Montana, but more like Steve Young. The fact that Daniels looked like Steve Young caught me off guard. I have no idea what happened there. He's not that great. I'll still be upfront. He's still not that great. But if a defense sucks that badly, of course, any quarterback's going to be that good. So Daniel Jones, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 3 or 4 games with Daniel Jones as well too, because I have a feeling he's just going to suck and he's going to just revert down basically at this point. Let's be honest. Let's see what happens there, but you'll see it's going to be a massive decline for Indianapolis. They're probably going to be the ones that are probably going to get the Arch Manning if Arch Manning is good enough. Unfortunately, what happened in his first game, I don't know. We'll have to wait the next couple of games to see how Arch Manning proves himself at that. But he might have to come back another year, like what Peyton Manning did, just to raise his stock even higher. Yeah, outside of that, and well, I don't know what to say. It was like the Ravens. I mean, I don't know what the f happened there. You're up by 14 points, and I mean, the Bills. It shows what Josh Allen can do. Josh Allen is that superstar quarterback. If you surround him with the right set of people, and he has a really good defense, sky's the limit for Buffalo at this point. And I think now this is the time that Buffalo can actually thrive and proceed forward, because let's be honest, the way Kansas City played against the Chargers, that West is up for grabs. It's either going to be the Chargers, Chiefs, or maybe even the Raiders. It all depends, but it's going to be between the Raiders and not Raiders, sorry, with the Chargers and Chiefs at this point. But reality is like it's probably going to be either the Ravens or the Bills that are probably going to advance forward. Basically, Pittsburgh. I'm a little surprised that the Jets were that much into the game. If the Jets had a defense, they probably win that game. Honestly, they probably won that game. If the Jets had a good D. Quite honestly, Justin Fields, I'm kind of surprised that he did pretty decent against that Pittsburgh D. Like I said, if the Jets D was there, they probably would have won that game. But it is what it is. With that, I'll leave it at that. I went a little over what I normally do. Try to keep it under 5, usually under 10 minutes, but try to keep it at 5. But in this case, it was like 3 different sports. I had to talk about them. The Mets, like I said, wait till the end of the week. Let's see how they fare. If they're on a losing streak, they're probably barely going to limp into the wild card, or if barely make the wild card, if they can, that is. With Formula One, this is Piastri's championship to lose. Basically, that's what it comes down to. This is Piastri's championship to lose. With the Giants, hey, 0-16, great. Maybe we tank for the patent, tanking for Archie, basically, or Arch, not Archie, but Arch Manning. If Arch Manning is that good, only time will tell at that point. But hey, Jackson Dart might be good, and Carter might be good. The thing that we got to look closely at, though, is we're probably going to have another OBJ situation with Neighbors, because you could tell his frustration. The dude was frustrated as hell. So let's take a look and see how that works out. But with that, I'll leave it at that. You're welcome to leave a comment in the comment section. If you like this video, granted it's been all, 3 different things, please hit the like button. If you like my video or like my content, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. With that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, of course, unrehearsed. Until next time.